So, a Fox News alert, just breaking in this hour, the Justice Department is dropping the case against Michael Flynn. He had been appointed by President Trump as the National Security Advisor. There's a long history of this case, and we have former U.S. Attorney and Fox News contributor Andy McCarthy still with me now. Andy, I know that there's going to be a lot of criticism coming to the Justice Department from the left or from people who are opposed to this move. One of the things I think that you'll see them try to make the case is that, well, why would Michael Flynn have pled guilty if he wasn't guilty?
Yeah, well, Dana, as we discussed a couple of minutes ago, he contends that they basically threatened that if he didn't plead guilty, they would investigate and prosecute his son for a foreign agent registration violation. And there's now some corroboration.
And can I ask you, Andy, I mean, is that a normal thing for a prosecutor to suggest? That sounds to me more like something that would happen in another country, not the United States.
Well, look, it's a hardball tactic. And if there is a good faith ground for a criminal case against somebody, I mean, it's not unheard of. When I was a federal prosecutor, there were a lot of mafia cases where, there was probably lots of indication that the wives of these wise guys knew enough that you could probably, cobble together a case against them. But usually, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But this is different because they were threatening him with.
Go ahead.
They're threatening him with something that they, the Foreign Agency Registration Act prosecutions. There were about 6 of them in the half century before Mueller. It was something that they virtually never prosecuted.
And so now that he is cleared, is there a step where he could sue the federal government?
Yeah, he can do that. There are suits that involve the denial of your constitutional rights of people who, acting under color of law. You can try to make out a violation that they intentionally deprives you of your constitutional rights. It's tough to do with police because the police have a right to be wrong. And I'm imagining that General Flynn is probably so delighted to be out from under this. He probably content himself with that, at least for a while.
Andy, is it true, as I'm being told in my ear, that a judge still has to agree with the Justice Department in terms of this move?
The judge has to sign off on the dismissal of the case. When the government makes a motion like this, Dana, it's pretty pro forma that the judge will do that. Technically the way it works is Flynn has pled guilty, but the judgment has not been entered because he wasn't sentenced yet. And he's got pending motions before the court to vacate the plea and to throw out the case based on prosecutorial outrageous misconduct. Now the Justice Department is intervening under the federal rules and dismissing the case, but they need the leave of the court to do that. I can't imagine the court would object to this.
Michael Flynn changed his attorney and his lawyers. He made that change. Do you think that was a critical difference in getting to this point?
Yeah, I think it was the fact that that Sidney Powell fought this case so aggressively, coupled with the fact that the earlier lawyers were in a tough position, Dana, because they had represented Flynn on his submission of foreign agent registration documents with the Justice Department, which the Mueller investigation then turned around and investigated. So they were in the awkward position of kind of being an actor in the facts that were under investigation. And it's clear when they switched over to Sidney Powell, he got much more aggressive representation. Although I do think under the circumstances, the law firm got what was regarded at the time as a pretty favorable deal for Flynn.
Right. What about the Durham investigation? This is a U.S. attorney from Utah who's been looking into the overall, the beginnings, the origins of the Russia investigation and the Trump campaign. He's been fairly quiet, but would he have been looped in on something like this? And could we expect some maybe additional actions when his investigation is complete?
Yeah, Dana, he's the U.S. attorney from Connecticut. There's another guy who was from Utah who was looking at another aspect of this long ago. And I think that I read someplace that Durham was coordinating, as you would expect, with Jeff Jensen, who was the U.S. attorney from Missouri, St. Louis, who Barr assigned to look at this. So I'm sure they're all coordinating, and the reason Durham is being quiet is he should be being quiet at this point if he's conducting an investigation and thinking about bringing charges.
What would then be the next step for Michael Flynn? Where do you go to get your reputation back?
Well, I don't think they can ever make him whole for everything that he has lost, financially, in terms of his professional prospects, et cetera, over the last few years. On the other hand, Dana, I think this is a much better result for him than even being pardoned, because, the fiction with pardon is it's like it never happened in the first place. But we all know that would have been regarded as political, whereas this is really the Justice Department looking at a case that cried out to be looking at and doing the right thing.
Right, indeed. And his son, and I would imagine that as he lets all of this news wash over him, that he will be very grateful to his lawyers, but also hopefully feel a little bit of measure of being able to breathe easier. Andy, I'll give you the last word here.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to take an easy breath in 3 years, Dana. And, for the kind of service that he gave to the United States, that really is something that should bother all of us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Andy McCarthy. And I'm sure everyone here listening and watching today will continue to stay with Fox News with this breaking news. The Justice Department deciding to drop the case against Michael Flynn. Lots more to come today.